Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Nomad and welcome to another Top 5 Wednesday. Today's topic of the week is Top 5 Favourite Spring Reads, or Top 5 Reads for Spring. So unfortunately we're going into autumn here in Australia, so I thought I would do the top 5 reads I would recommend from the books I read in spring last year. So these are the books, if you want to see my full spring wrap up, I'll link it down below, but these are the top 5 ones I would definitely recommend to anyone going into this spring season. We'll start off with a bit of joy and frivolity, why don't we? So starting off, we've got Women in Black by Madeline St. John. This is such a wonderful novel set in 1950s Australia about a young girl who's on the cusp of starting university and finishing high school, and she gets a Christmas job at a large department store called Goods, and you follow the lives of 4 women who all work at Goods and see how their lives evolve when they interact and intersect, and it's just such a wonderful and lovely story. And next we have What Katie Did by Susan Coolidge. This is a late 1800s novel set in the US, and it is really a lovely coming age of story about a young girl who's quite rough and tumble and gets into a lot of trouble until she really does get into a lot of trouble and has a physical injury, and she has to learn how to adapt and get on with her life in a way that she never had to consider before. So it is really, really lovely to see a young girl coming into her own self and having to adapt to every situation that she comes across. Next, something very, very short but very, very powerful is The Return of the Soldier by Rebecca West. This is probably a little bit gloomier than the other two, but this is set in World War One, during World War One, and a young man who loses his memory is sent back to his family, and he is suffering from incredibly intense post-traumatic stress, but they don't realize that, and he's actually regressed back to a time when he was in love with a local girl. But of course he's married, she's married and moved on, but she is forced to come back into his life because he doesn't seem to be able to function without it. And it is constantly the question of is really knowing the truth worth it? Is it worth the pain and the heartache that will occur when people have to face the reality of the situation that they've been through? So it was really, really interesting, especially because it was written at the time of the First World War, or just after, when many people who are recovering from post-traumatic stress are being brushed aside. So it is really making that issue and the issue of women's power within those relationships come to the fore. Next, something quite fun but also dastardly is A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne. Beautifully written, wonderfully paced. It is a bit of a literary Talented Mr. Ripley, if you've ever heard of Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. This is about a young man who wants to be a famous writer. He wants to have a great legacy, but he can't write, and he knows he can't write. So he starts to make friends with other people who can write and slowly starts to steal their manuscripts. And things get very dark very quickly, and it gets very wonderful. So it's actually quite fun to go through the story and hate Maurice Swift, who is the main character. And finally, if you want to start your spring in a little bit of an epic way, start it with The Fifth Season, since it is a seasonal kind of tag. The fifth season is a season to end all seasons. It's basically when the world has to go through a huge cataclysmic change and humans are forced to adapt and survive, and it follows 3 women as they try to navigate their own personal lives and see how to survive not only within society but within the 5th season. It is wonderful. M.K. Jemisin has not only won the Hugo Prize for this book, but for the 2nd and 3rd book in this trilogy. It is a hugely award-winning trilogy, and it is absolutely brilliant. It blew me away. So I definitely recommend if you want a bit of an epic read to start spring. Alright, so thank you for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!